Hello, everybody. This is Don Counts, and I have Dick Farrar here. And Dick, tell us who we have today.
We have Mr. Kenny Pack, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Kenny is a longtime friend, I would say, I remember his dad very well, officiating football, and got on me a couple of times during the game one time. Kenny, to gain insight into Kenny Pack and how you have arrived at where you are today almost requires a history lesson on the legacy of the Pack family, beginning with your father Bill and your mother Betty. Please share some of your family's legacy as it relates to sports, particularly in Tullahoma, as well as sports officiating.
Well, Dick, thanks for having me. I appreciate y'all doing this. Just to give you a little background on the Pack family, I had a list here of what, this is just TSSAA related. The father, our father Bill, and the 5 sons, as of this year, have accumulated 288 years of officiating with the TSSAA. Our father started officiating in 1939. He was 20 years old before World War II started, was a member of the TSSAA. Of course, went to World War II and came back and formed the Central Tennessee Football Officials Association in 1947, 48. I'm not exactly sure of one of those years, we know, and ran it for till 1994 when he passed away. He was officiated football and basketball with the TSSAA for 55 years. He worked football up until the year he passed away. Actually, 1994. He worked in the 1993 season and then got sick. He also officiated in the Ohio Valley Conference for 33 years, Division I football. He worked 9 championship basketball games, championship football games during the era of high school championship games, which started in 1969, maybe 70, 71, something like that. Worked a boys and a girls basketball, state basketball tournament. He only worked basketball till 1961 when he started traveling for McGregor in 4 states selling sporting goods, so he had to give up basketball. The sons, going back to my father, he's in the TSSAA Hall of Fame, of course. He's in the state of Tennessee Hall of Fame, whatever they call that. He's in the Tullahoma Sports Council Hall of Fame, and he's in the National Federation of High School Hall of Fame, and was inducted in that in 1991. So he was well respected in his time as a football official. The sons, Dick, Richard, Dick and Bob were twins. They are the oldest. Dick passed away in March of this year, and Dick had, when he passed away, had 53 years of officiating with the TSSAA. Worked 6 championship games, worked a girls' state tournament. Dick worked more basketball than the rest of us, and was very good at it. Bob, his twin, had 52 years with the TSSAA when he retired. He worked 7 championship games. Bill Jr., who lived in Chattanooga, didn't work as much. He worked 20 years of football with the TSSAA. He had a couple of sons that started playing, so he didn't work as long as the rest of us. Myself, this is my 57th year of being associated with the TSSAA. I actually worked football for 52 years, and since that time I have had some back surgeries and can't work. But I had took over the association in 1994 after Daddy passed away, and this would be my 31st year of running the Central Tennessee Football Officials Association. We service about 32 high schools in southern Middle Tennessee and numerous middle schools, JVs. And our youngest brother, Pat, who this is his 51st year in the TSSAA. So we've got our father and 4 sons who have more than 50 years of service to the TSSAA. That's just a kind of a quick synopsis of how we got where we are. Daddy, his sports background, he still to this day, he went to Tullahoma High School and has the record for most varsity letters of anybody that served. And he had 13 varsity letters by the time he graduated from high school. And of those letters, he only got one in football because his mother would not let him play football till he was a senior. She was afraid he was going to get hurt. He played tennis, basketball, baseball, but had 13 letters. So he was a really good athlete. He played professional baseball before World War II. He was in the single A league in Kentucky. And when World War II broke out, of course, he went to war and came back and they had another path. Our mother was actually born and raised in New York City, which is kind of crazy that we have living here in southern Middle Tennessee, and our father married a woman who was born and raised in New York City. They met during World War II. Mother was in the Navy too, and she was actually not a very big lady. She was about 5 feet, 5'1", but she was won the club championship out at Lakewood numerous times during her years playing golf. So she had some athletic ability too, although she was not a very big woman. So there's some athletic ability in the house. We got a lot of that from Daddy. All of us were not great athletes, but we all played just about every sport there was to play. Pat was the only one that played much basketball because he was a little bit taller than the rest of us. But we all played football, we all played baseball, we all played golf. So we had a pretty athletic family, and that I think that helped us a lot in our officiating, going down the officiating road. And you can stop me when you want to, or if you want to change course. But I knew, and I think the rest of my brothers knew, that when we were growing up, that we were going to officiate. That was just, and it wasn't anything Daddy made us do, or I'm sure he wanted us to do that. But it was never really spoken of. You know, you're going to do this or you're going to do that. It was just something we took up, just like you take up golf or anything else. When we were old enough, when we started, you had to be 21 years of age, and when I turned 21, I started, and it just so happened that Dick and Bob, they had gone to Tennessee Tech on a golf scholarship and didn't do very well, and ended up in the Navy during the Vietnam War. And when they came back, when they got out of the Navy, it happened to be 1969, and we all three registered the first time with the TSSAA in 1969. So the three of us have started at the same time. So it was, but it was just something we did, and we've loved it. It's just been a. Now I still to this day, it's I'm still part of it.
That is truly a family legacy story. That's very interesting. For years in Middle Tennessee, your father, you and your brothers have had the reputation of knowing how to run a game efficiently, keeping it moving smoothly and fairly without delays. Is it presumptuous to credit Mr. Bill with instilling that in you and other CTC officials?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. If you knew my father, of course, he ran the association for 50-something years, 52 or 3 years, and it's been a good. If you'll ask around, of course, a lot of the coaches have changed over a lot now. There are not many left. That if you can ask Coach Thompson, Ronnie Carter, Daddy ran an association, and he ran it the right way. And officiating was in his blood. He always amazed me that, of course, he not only officiated high school football, but he officiated college football for about 37 or 8 years. I don't remember exactly. But he was a referee, and of course, y'all know the referee is the guy that runs the show. And it always amazed me that he could keep the high school rule book and the college rule book separate. And they're two different animals. You think, well, a rule book's a rule book. And if you've ever officiated, that's not the case. A high school rule book is fairly concise and simple. It's not really simple, but if you study it, it's something you can learn, and the referee, it doesn't make it very complicated. A college rule book, on the other hand, they've got 10 rules just like the high school rule book does, but there's somewhere in the realm of 400 exceptions to the rules in the college rule book. So it's amazing. To me, it was amazing. I officiated college football for 33 years, but I worked on the end of the line, and I had a fairly good grasp of the rule book, but I didn't know it like the referees do. But Daddy, it was amazing how he could completely keep them separate and know the rules on Friday night and Saturday without any hesitation. And I think that instilled a lot in not only in his sons as officials, but in our association. I remember growing up that sitting in meetings, back then we used to meet every Monday night in Shelbyville, and he'd pass out assignments for that week. You could do that back then because there weren't any to speak of. There weren't any weekday games. There were a few JV or freshman games that played on Thursday night, but we didn't have middle school and very few games on Monday night. So we could meet, and I can remember sitting in our meeting room and seeing when he got up and talked, everybody listened. There wasn't any foolishness going. It was kind of like a teacher that you were afraid of that was up there teaching, but you wanted to learn, and he instilled that in everybody. I think not only in his sons, as I said, but in the association as a whole, and we've tried to continue to do that. I've had Bill Marbett, as y'all know, Bill helps me run the association now, and that's one tradition we've tried to keep going, is to instill in our officials the confidence to do what we think they need to be doing, be where they need to be. Our goal is in officiating, and I know this wasn't the question, but it's to put our officials in the proper place at the proper time to either make a call or a no call, and that's 90% of officiating.
No one becomes very good at something without diligence and hard work. You started officiating at an early age with youth sports called intramural games while in college, and worked high school games as well as college as soon as you were old enough and registered official. Please detail the meetings, clinics, and other steps you've used to hone your craft and reach the level that has made you a TSSAA Hall of Fame inductee. Officiating is far more than showing up with a whistle and a striped shirt.
That's correct. And in today's society, it's even more pronounced that you've got to work at it with the advent of film, as we're doing here. We see more film. Our officials get to see more film now in a week than I saw in a lifetime of officiating growing up. There was very little film that we got to see of us officiating and working games, and whether we made the right call or wrong call. And these things have helped us in the long run, but as far as meetings and working at it, it's not something that you can, as you just said, have a whistle and a hat and a flag and show up on Friday night or Thursday night or whenever the game is. It's something you've got to work at, and I think the majority of our officials do. Our association, I know, is like a lot of other associations. We have some officials that don't take it as seriously as they need to. We try to address those things, but as y'all are aware, with the numbers now, it's almost impossible to weed out as many as we'd like to, because we've got to have officials. We've actually got people working on the field this year who are second-year officials. If Daddy knew that now, he'd roll over in his grave, because when I started, of course, we didn't have as many schools, and but you worked if you started, you might get a JV game or a middle school, or no middle schools, but a freshman game, and you ran the clock for 3 or 4 years, and then you got on the field. But now we have to put officials on the field, and our training is such that we try to give them as much information as we can, as fast as we can. We start meeting now, and we start meeting in the middle of July, our football association, and we meet every Monday night for about 7 or 8 weeks before the season starts, because once the season starts, we can't meet because they're playing football every night except Wednesday, and we've actually had a few games on Wednesday night, so it's really hard. We actually have one more mid-season meeting next Wednesday night. That'll be our last meeting, but we have to get all of our meetings in before the season starts, because when we meet, if we can't, we've got about 100 bodies in our association, and if we try to meet on a Monday or a Tuesday night now, we'll have probably 40 or 50 of those guys working. Any given weekday night, we'll have 40 or 50 officials working.
Ken, I believe that twice in your officiating career, you were a game official with an all-pack crew, meaning that the entire officiating entourage was made up of your father and brothers. This has to be a special memory, and can you talk about that for us?
It certainly, Dick, it certainly is a special memory. We did that twice. We did that at Fayetteville before it was Lincoln County. That's back in the mid-'70s, and then we did it again at BGA a couple of years later. As far as we can tell, we've done some research, and as far as we can tell, that's never been done before, that an entire crew was made up of one family, a father and his 5 sons. And to me, I know it might not mean anything to a lot of people, but to me, that is a outstanding accomplishment, that a father had 5 sons that officiated, and not to be presumptuous, but we were all 5 pretty decent football officials. Dick was a good basketball official, but we were all 5 pretty good football officials, because you can tell by the number of games that we've worked and the championship games that we've worked, that we've followed in Daddy's footsteps pretty well. But to me, it's an accomplishment I don't think will ever be ever happen again in my lifetime, for sure.
How would you describe the close bonded relationship that develops among officials?
That is a great question, and to me, and I think to a lot of the people that officiate, that's the main reason they officiate. I can tell you that to this day, I have friends that I started working high school football with back years and years and years ago, that have become, that I was not friends with, but I have become close friends with and have stayed close friends with. The camaraderie of officiating far outweighs the working the game itself. Working the game itself is very important, and we take it seriously, and I think the majority of officials that do work take the game seriously. But the camaraderie, the going to the game, our association we cover all of southern Middle Tennessee, so it would not be unusual for one of our officials. We try to work in crews as much as we can, like people from Tullahoma or Fayetteville or wherever, try and put them together in Columbia. But it's not unusual for our guys to travel 75 to 100 miles one way on any given Friday night to go to a football game. Now we can, we service about half the schools in Williamson County, and that's roughly 80 miles from here, depending on which school you're going to. So we've got guys going from Tullahoma to Williamson County and back, going to travel 160, 170 miles together. And that's where the camaraderie comes in. Not only working the game, but the going to the game and coming home. I officiated in the Ohio Valley Conference, as I said, for 25 years. And we worked in crews in the Ohio Valley. After about 5 years, we got into crews. And I have unfortunately, 4 of them have passed away. But I have 5 of the closest friends I've ever had in my life were those 5 people that were on that crew. And we not only worked together during the year, we spent time together in the off season. Our wives became great friends. We traveled together. We traveled on vacation together. Our wives would go with us on certain weekends to games, and they would go and have a great time. We'd go work football, but it's the camaraderie of officiating is people just don't understand it unless they've done it. And I think it may be a lot like fishing or playing golf or you get friends and you get close to, but in officiating, these people that are your friends are people that you go on the field with and you can trust and you understand what they're thinking, they understand what you're thinking, and we become, as I said, with those 5 guys, we became as close or closer than brothers because we were together during the fall every weekend for 12 or 13, 14 weeks, and it's a great camaraderie.
Since I've known you and met you, I saw character and integrity written all over you. Just in general terms, what characteristics and components make a good sports official?
I think you've got to enjoy what you're doing, but I think you've got to understand that you're part of a game. It's when you're officiating, you're part of that game, and they can't have the game without officials. And I think a lot of the fans nowadays don't understand what it takes to be an official. It takes it not only takes integrity, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to read the rule book, to go to meetings. You're away from your family. It takes dedication, and if you don't have that dedication, and the way officials are being treated nowadays, there are a lot of our officials that don't have that dedication, and they don't really blame them because it's. But you've got to have integrity, and you've got to really want to officiate and do a good job, and you've got to work at it. It's not something as you said earlier, it's not something you can just show up on Friday night and work. It just doesn't work. And it would be like you going to your job on a daily basis and just showing up and with no preparation and not being ready for the day's assignment. You just can't do it.
Frequently, when a call is made, there is a difference in judgment as to what actually happened on a play. On occasion, the dispute becomes testy and personal feelings get involved. What is the ideal temperament needed by an official to set personal issues aside, settle the coach, continue with the call, and not have the game continue without incident?
Well, in officiating, you're going to make mistakes. That's just part of the game. And as I said earlier, our main goal as training of officials is to put officials in have proper mechanics and put you in the proper place to make the proper call. That doesn't always mean you're going to make the right call, whether it be you call a foul or you don't call a foul. And obviously, if you're going to officiate, just like anything else in life, you're going to miss calls. If you do, and it's hard to explain that to young officials. You just got to own up to it and move on. And in most cases, coaches will understand that. Coach, I missed it. We're going to move on. Sometimes they won't let it go. And that's when, that's the reason we carry a yellow flag around. If we have to use it, we will. But if you make the wrong call, you just got to smooth it over as best you can and move on. You can't let making a bad call make you make a bad call the next time. You just got to move on. I mean, I know in my career that I've missed a call, and when I've made the call, I either didn't make it or made it. I knew right then I've messed up. I've missed that, or I should have called that. But you can't. You just got to. It's like anything else in life. You just got to move on and do the best you can, and not make that mistake again. One of the biggest things we have with young officials is inadvertent whistles. And it's something, if you officiate, you're going to have an inadvertent whistle. That's just part of it. But once you've had one, you certainly need to learn from that and don't ever have one again. So it's just, if you don't make the right call or you miss a call, then you just got to move on. But and do the best you can to make sure you don't make that same mistake twice.
I think maybe to sum that up, back in 1957, John Majors was playing against Baylor in the Sugar Bowl, and he fumbled a punt. Someone asked his mother, Elizabeth, after the game about that, and she said, "Oh, I burn the biscuits every now and then." Is that the same with officials?
Exactly.
Burn the biscuits?
Yeah, well, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, if you're going to officiate, just like anything else in life, you're going to miss some calls, but you need to make sure that if you make a mistake, you learn from it, as I said, and it's just part of being an official.
Almost all game officials are former athletes. Do you think that for most, officiating is a way to give back to the game, helping to make it a positive experience for today's players, just as someone did for them when they were competing?
I certainly do. And as I stated earlier, there's going to be no game if we don't have officials. And that's the reason, well, I don't know that that's the reason in the back of our minds that the five boys started that way. I think we started officiating because we just thought that's what we were supposed to do. But I think as we grew into it, and I think as most officials grow into it, they're giving back something that they got from the game. I think football as a team sport teaches a lot of young men and in some cases young women great things in life, how to cope with life and how to move on. And I think most officials are trying to do that. I think in some cases we have officials who are in it just for the money, and the money is not bad, but if you're in it for the money, then you're in it for the wrong reason. But I think the majority of our guys are in it to make sure that the sport is able to carry on and to help, because with some of the stuff we have to put up with in today's society, certainly if we weren't in it to make the sport better and to help it carry on, we'd all quit.
You've addressed some of this, Ken, but I'll ask it in a different way. Often one will come across a newspaper or television story on how difficult it is to be a coach's spouse, coping with a time-consuming schedule, living the highs and lows of wins and losses, and tolerating criticism from fans when things don't go well. Your wife, Jane, and you have been married for more than 50 years, and I suspect that if she's attended many games you've officiated, she's heard vocal fans give you a poor job rating and complaints, outnumbering the attaboys. Attaboys you may have received. Has fan reaction ever been a challenge for your wife or children, or just you personally?
No, I don't think Janie has never gone to a whole lot of games. She went, before we got married, she went with me, I've forgotten where it was, maybe in Bell Buckle or something, one of the smaller high schools back then, you know, when all the towns had high schools back in the late 60s and early 70s before they went to county schools. And I'd gone to work basketball somewhere, had a potbelly stove, and she went with me, and she was sitting in the stands, and of course the fans were wearing officials out, as they do. They pay I think some of them, that's the reason they pay their money, so they can do that. And she told me that after the game, she was sitting up there and she was just watching, and there were two guys down there wearing us out, and they turned around and asked her, says, you're just sitting here, you're not yelling for either team. Says, what are you here for? She says, oh, I'm with the officials. And she said from that time on through the rest of the game, they never said a word about the officiating at all. But that was one of the few times she ever went with me. She just, as I said, when I started college, she'd go with me a lot, travel with me a lot. But the girls never went to the game. They had things we would go to, when we go to Richmond, to Eastern Kentucky, we'd stay in Lexington, and we'd go work football, and the girls would go to the horse races. So they had things they did. But Janie never went a whole lot. But she understands the life of an official because we've been married a long time. And I brought, I'm like you were when you were working. You bring some things home with you, and talk about them, and that'll happen. But historically, through the years, I've been very, very fortunate that I haven't really had a lot of things that have really bothered me to, as far as an official goes.
Right.
Now, as an assigner, the things bother me more as an assigner because I've got 100 guys I'm trying to take care of and get in the right place, and I don't like them being picked on. I take that personally when fans abuse my officials, and but as far as Janie goes, she hadn't had to deal with that a whole lot. No.
In 2009, you were honored as an official with induction into the TSSAA Hall of Fame. Realizing that your father preceded you in the hall by being one of the first officials inducted, your selection had to be a gratifying experience. How meaningful was your induction, and what were your emotions learning of your selection, and how meaningful were other honors that you have received?
Well, being inducted in the TSSAA Hall of Fame was it was something that I wanted. I've never wanted much as far as officiating goes, but it was something that I really wanted because, as you said, Daddy was inducted. He was, I think, the second official that was put into the Hall of Fame, and I really wanted to join him in that, and I was just elated. Actually, Ronnie Carter, who was the executive secretary at the time, called me. I was on my way home from work one day, and he called me to tell me that I was going to be inducted into the TSSAA Hall of Fame. And I think he was as excited about it, me being inducted, as I was, because I, as you well know, Ronnie and my daddy were very, very close. I think Daddy thought of Ronnie as the sixth son in our family, and but it was an honor that I was just thrilled to, and still to this day am thrilled to death with. Every time I go to the Hall of Fame every year, I have chills about that. It was a great honor.
Over the years and during my high school playing days, there were some what I call colorful officials. Can you talk about some of the older officials that meant a lot to you over the years? I think I remember the name Gabby Street, and there was another one that was in that group.
When I first started officiating, we had Burl Crowell, who was a great high school and college football official, but he was an even better basketball official. He worked in the OVC and the SEC for years as a basketball official. And Gabby Street from Winchester, George Haley. I don't know if you remember George. You may not have known George. George came in our association probably in the mid '80s. He lived in Brentwood, but he played at Middle Tennessee and was a great football official. But when I first started officiating, Daddy told Burl and Gabby. Of course, Burl and Gabby and Daddy and I worked a lot of time when I was growing up, unless Daddy had a college game. Daddy would be the referee, and we had Burl and Gabby and George Haley. We'd all work together as a crew, and then we'd have an umpire changing in and out. But Daddy told Burl and Gabby at one point, and this won't mean a whole lot to people that don't know Burl and Gabby, but Burl and Gabby were not only great officials, they were great people, and they were great friends of mine. And they were great characters in the world. And the people that know them and remember them will understand what I'm saying when I say they were great characters. But Daddy told them at one time, they said, all right, y'all gonna take him and raise him as an official. And they say, you're either gonna make him or you're gonna ruin him. Of course, he was being a little bit talking out of the side of his mouth because he knew in his heart he wasn't gonna let them get me too far off the beaten path. But they were they were outstanding people and outstanding officials and great. And there I go back again to friendships, to people that I learned to love through officiating. Would never have known those guys and how good of people they were, and their families. Learned Betty Street and Charlotte Crowell, their wives. Learned to know and love them, and just great people. And it all kind of goes back to the same thing. It's about camaraderie and love of each other and love of the game.
To sum it up, officiating is made up of family.
As far as I'm concerned, it is, yes. And in my case, as you can tell by the sheet that I brought, it certainly was in the Pack family.
Right. Someday when you have totally retired from business, local government administration, and officiating, people will have many good things to say about Kenny Pack. What would you like your legacy to be?
Yeah, Dick, I've never thought much about that, and I don't really know that I'll have a legacy. I think that the football officials that have gone through our association since I took over, I would hope that they would all have good thoughts of me and hope that I did a good job. I think most of them will. You've always got disgruntled employees, and I understand that I didn't get enough games or I didn't get the right games, but I think as a whole, I think everybody, the majority of people will think that I've done a good job with my life and with helping to run the association and trying to make the Central Tennessee Football Conference and high school football in Tennessee better for everyone.
Don?
That's very good.
Good. Summed it up very well.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for your-
you.
Thank you all. I hope you learned something. It's not, it is what it is.
Very good.
Very good. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.